Thank you. Now, before I start, because I've been working Restoring Your Railway for 2.5 years, and it's easy when you're in your own sort of bubble, has everyone heard of the Restoring Your Railway programme? Mixed. Okay, well, I'll give you a brief preamble. Restoring Your Railway, it comes from January 2020. It's a government initiative to reconnect towns and communities, not always closed by beaching, but maybe from beaching, reconnect communities, levelling up, everything goes with it. The first project that we did, November 2021, was a Dartmoor line. It's reconnecting Exeter with Oakhampton. I'm very happy to say it's been a resounding success. We had over 250,000 passengers in the first year alone. But the thing about it is, and this is why this theme is so interesting, it's not just the railway in itself. When the railway reopened, we worked alongside GWR and Devon County Council to put on a connecting bus. That bus runs to Tavistock and other nearby villages. And I'd only just arrived at the conference yesterday morning with Stephen Norris saying about aligning bus and rail timetables. I thought, great, you should come down and see what we've done. You know, it's great within seconds. That's exactly what we're doing. But it's not just railway for the sake of it. That is exactly about not just viewing when you're putting a railway, and it's not a blank sheet. You know, is this blank sheet of paper, but it's not just the railway on its own. So what we've tried to take from what we've done with Dartmoor is take it to the other projects in our portfolio. And the success of the buses has actually meant that 2 other bus routes have been rerouted now to serve the station, including one that isn't at all supported by local county council, which is entirely commercially operated, which I think is a really positive sign that, you know, initially had to be the pump pricing and the other stuff has followed. The next project that is due to be completed through Restoring Your Railway is bigger in scale. It's the Northumberland line that links Ashington Blythe with Newcastle. That has the potential to reconnect over 100,000 people to the railway network if you measure it within 5 kilometres of the station. And Northumberland County Council, Northern and ourselves and DFT, it's not just the railway in itself. The railway is seen as an integral part of the sort of South Northumberland transport landscape. So what they've been fortunate out of, they've been lucky up in Northumberland. They've got one of, if not the most highest amount of BSIP funding from the government last year. So they're going to use that money to recalibrate bus services so they run later and earlier, so they link in with the train services, but also to serve communities a little bit further away from the station, link them into the network. They're also doing something with their local walking cycling plans, so they link in, that's new cycle lanes, moving pedestrian crossings. I know it all sounds quite small, but this is the really important stuff. You know, you've been talking about person-centred stuff. This is the really important stuff to make these stations more accessible to people. And I think it's not just a nice to have, and that's the case that we're taking from this, is because if you're expanding the amount of people that can access these networks, you're expanding the amount of people who are going to use it. That means it's more financially sustainable. That's good for the railway, full stop, because I'm sure you've heard from Rufus yesterday from GBRTT that we are still in a challenging position with what's happened with commuting and everything. Tapping into these new markets is obviously good for the financial sustainability reality, but equally, it's about getting more people to travel sustainably. And so we have, it's not just Restoring Your Railway, and that's why this is a sort of an exemplar for this broader first and last mile, or door-to-door, as I know has been referred here, or whole system thinking, to borrow from Jacobs earlier. And what we've sort of found is, and this is sort of quite an interesting thing when you're working in somewhere like Network Rail, it's not all us. You know, we talk about red line boundary, we had that earlier this morning. A lot of it is not in our gift, but it's about starting that conversation, having that partnership with Northumberland. Some of it is put on by Northumberland, some of them is bus providers, some of it is Northern as a train company, but it's getting that dialogue going. And it's not always easy because we're all under tight financial pressures. But it's about having those conversations, because also to link back to one of the first things said yesterday, Rachel was talking about friction. If there is that friction, that's going to deter people from making more sustainable travel choice. I think our role, and this is what I see Restoring Your Railway is, and through this first last mile thinking, is reducing that friction, doing our bit to make that sustainable journey more straightforward for people. And sometimes that's technology, sometimes that's aligning things. And we have, they talk about the projects that are happened or about to happen. We have other projects in our portfolio. Now, funding is tight at the moment, so it's inevitable that not everything we're doing right now will get to full-scale delivery, but there are some in there that go through major population centres unconnected. There, for example, there's something called the Ivanhoe line. That's right in the centre of the country. That's places like Colville, Ashby de la Zouch, Swaddling Coat. You add them together, that's over 100,000 people. That is a real opportunity. But those are places where the roads are poor, and because the roads are poor, the buses are poor as well. It takes over an hour to get from Leicester to Bird. We have that opportunity through taking some of this thinking to really, if we're going in there, to really get it right and really make it deliver for passengers. But that's only part of Network Rail, and that's what I'm saying. we can sort of convene it, but that is what we sort of take from it. And from the sort of dialogue we've been doing, because I sort of chair this group in Network Rail every 10 weeks where people come to talk about first mile thinking, and it's been great. Some Marty Conn from East West Rail come on. It's not just us doing it. East West Rail are doing some fantastic stuff. One of their stations there are due to open very shortly in the first phase is Winslow, and that is really about connecting to that broader Buckinghamshire sort of landscape. So I think, as I see it, it's all about, you know, recognising it's not just on its own, it's not an end to itself, it's linking with the wider stuff. And there is so much going on in this sphere, and that's just what I wanted to sort of briefly bring to you, is that it doesn't also have to be a new station as well. What GWR are doing, they've got what they're sort of coming about these bus branch lines, and they've got one down in Totnes looking to Saltcombe, and there's some fantastic advert that I would have done in the presentation, but it just distracts you because it ends with people having a lot of nice Cornish ice cream. But you've got all this sort of stuff going on, and I think it feels like it's the obvious stuff, but it is the stuff that we really need to be sort of banging on with, and because it's getting more people involved, getting, as you say, going back, getting away from that friction that Rachel was talking about, getting those integrated things that Stephen was talking about, and that's what we're after, really. And I think what I would also say is, please, after this, you know, find me on LinkedIn, find me on everything. Let me know what's it like where you are, because, you know, I was very fortunate. I grew up in Brighton, which has fantastic buses, decent train link. I now live in London. It's not the same everywhere, and it's trying to imagine what the user experience is like for other people. So it is great to hear how it is for other people, because that's what it's about. We're trying to take this best practice, and sometimes not so good best practice, and see what it's like for different people. So I'd love to hear what your own personal experiences are. And I have found, since sort of being involved in something like this, that I'm always on the lookout for like good signs of integration. And please don't use Slido to say this, but when I'm at stations now and I see like if they've got bus times there as well, I get excited. Don't use Slido to say I should get out more, but you know what I mean? It's stuff like that. It's those little things like that that is out there. And I think that is the opportunity of a programme like this. And I think it just really links into this conference, because we aren't just putting railways back for the sake of it. There's a purpose there. You know, and Oak Camden, it's quite interesting, because if you looked at it, it's only a town of about 10,000 people, but it's had 250,000 passengers. That's because it's serving as a wider feeder, effective, you know, what they called almost a transport desert. And then in other areas it'd be other things. So Ashton to Blythe, that's going to get people into Newcastle. That's jobs, education. And, you know, as a colleague, Martin referred to the borders, you know, that wasn't done under Restoring Railway, but it's exactly the same principle. Look what that's done for house building. It's connecting people with jobs, homes, economic growth, and sustainable forms of transport. So we're just putting that out there. And, you know, it is a challenging time to do stuff like this, but it's fantastic how well the Dartmoor line's going. And I'm every confidence that colleagues working on Northumberland will do something equally transformative. And then hopefully this makes the case that when we can go out and look at things again, there'll be more of this. And I know that budgets are very, very tight, but I don't think this is a nice to have. And I think that is one takeaway. And it is challenging, but I think collectively that's, you know, as we all go back to conference, what thing we take away, I think it is making that case for that integration piece. Because if I do, you know, put the hand up, you know, it will make people more likely to use public transport if they feel assured. And that's what happens in the Dartmoor line. There's a bus waiting for you when you get off the train. If you do it once and you get there and there's not the bus, you might go, well, I might as well drive the whole way. So that's what we're putting out there, you know, and it's really interesting to be involved in it. It's something I sort of feel passionately about. So I hope it sort of provokes, well, thank you for the people I applauded out there as well, but yes, that's well timed. But I hope that, you know, it's something to get you thinking. We don't have a monopoly on good ideas at all, and it is something that requires partnership, collaboration. But that's what we're just trying to push in this thing, and you know, hope to see the positive results. And if you haven't gone down to Dartmoor and got the line to Oakhampton, then got the connecting bus, because Tavistock teaches people life, I do thoroughly recommend it. Maybe do it in the summer when the weather's nice, but give it a go, see if it works well. Hopefully it works well. You can tell me it works well. If there are a few teething gremlins, drop us a line about that as well. But I hope that's a nice little whistle-stop tour around Restoring Your Railway.